in this introductory lesson, we're going to take a very basic introduction to the presidential election process. In the next, God knows how many lessons, we're going to go into a lot of detail on this. We're going to be looking at a number of things within the presidential election process, and we're going to start with the primary system, starting in the next lesson. But in this lesson, we're going to look at an introduction and the sort of constitutional foundations of the presidential election and the constitutional requirements of a president. Okay, so as an introduction, there's nothing more important, maybe nothing more popular in American politics than the presidential election. We are currently going through a presidential election. We've got the 2020 presidential election going on as we speak, okay, and as this video is recorded and when this video will be uploaded. Maybe this is because the president is the head of state and is seen as more important, and is also the fact that the president is almost seen as the figurehead, the most well-known person within the American politics system. And effectively becoming a president, getting to the point where you are elected president, is an incredibly difficult task. And in the next series of lessons, we're going to explore every single detail of the presidential election process and how they occur, why they occur, trends within presidential elections, and then maybe even look ahead to the 2020 election, all for A-level. So first things first, when do presidential elections occur? According to the Constitution, I'm not drawing lines properly, according to the Constitution, America has fixed term elections that occur every 4 years. So no matter what, every single 4 years there is a presidential election. The first presidential election was held in 1788, and since then there's been an election every 4 years, and this is established under Article 2 of the US Constitution. So unlike in the UK, where our constitution is uncodified and therefore there's no real entrenched legislation, there's various laws that dictate when elections occur in this country, but they're not entrenched, so they can be subject to change. For example, the Fixed Term Parliament Act states that an election should occur every 5 years in this country, in the UK. However, this needn't be the case. Whereas if this was in America you've got a fixed constitution, so an election has to occur every 4 years, no matter what, and never before that or never after that. In the UK, we've had, despite the fact we've got a fixed term Parliament Act in place, since 2015, the last 5 years, we've had 3 general elections. So as you can tell, it's a little bit more complicated in this country, and it's a lot more simple to find the constitutional foundations of the election process. One interesting question is, what happens if a president dies whilst in office? So there's no special process for re-electing a new candidate. So what happens is there's a chain of command when it comes to the presidential process. So there's almost like a line of succession if a president dies before they get elected out. And this is not just if they die, if they become out of action effectively, if they become unable to fulfill the role of the presidency. And one example is when a president dies, the vice president will become the president, and that will be the line of succession there. So, for example, in 1963, when President John F. Kennedy was assassinated, his vice president, Lyndon B. Johnson, became the next president. And that is effectively what happens when a president dies. One interesting question that needs to be asked, especially within the contemporary, political climate, especially this year, effectively, is, can a president delay an election? Now, this is an important question during a period where we have got a global pandemic, because one of the arguments that has been presented by the incumbent president, this man here, okay, is that he wanted to see the election delayed so that they could have a safe process for people to be allowed to vote without the risk of catching COVID. And unfortunately for him, legally, the president does not have any power to delay or cancel an election, because elections are ran at a constitutional level. So elections are stated constitutionally, and the president doesn't have the power to change the constitution without submitting amendments to Congress, and then Congress passing those amendments, and then the state legislatures passing the amendments. So effectively he has no legal authority to delay or cancel or postpone the election. It's not outlined. This isn't outlined in Article 2 of the Constitution, whether or not they could delay an election. However, in the 22nd Amendment, the United States, it says that presidents shall serve for a maximum of 2 terms. This was after Roosevelt serving for 3. And it's also federal law that an election shall be held on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November of every 4th year. So specifically, it's not just that the election has to be held every 4 years, but it has to be held on this very specific day in November every 4 years. And that is, that makes it even more difficult to try and argue a case for delaying or cancelling. And even more, groundbreaking, even more of an issue for the current incumbent president is that an attempt was made to cancel/delay the election before, and this was during the American Civil War. The excuse obviously being, when America was in a civil war, they can't really hold an election. And this went to the Supreme Court, and it was the Ex parte Milligan case, and they held that the president had no power to cancel or delay the election. So even during the Civil War, the election was held. The election was held. So there's not really any kind of legal grounds to delay or cancel an election. If it can't be cancelled during a pandemic, or if it can't be cancelled during a civil war, then it won't ever be cancelled for any reason. Okay, and that's a very interesting question that has sprung up effectively in the last few weeks and months. I wasn't actually planning on putting that little section there into the video, because I didn't think it would be needed. However, with how unpredictable the political landscape is, it's something that was asked quite a few times. It was a question that could be asked: can the president delay an election? And the answer is no, they can't. In the next lesson, we're going to look at the requirements for a president, what the constitutional requirements are, and then what the non-constitutional requirements are for being president of the United States.